The Athletic Simon Johnson had the very difficult task of touring America, California, Las Vegas, and everywhere else covering Chelsea over the summer. But Simon, when you left, it all seems to have gone to pot. And these latest comments from Thomas Tuchel are really, really sharp, aren't they?
Well, hello, Ian. What can I say? Chelsea just can't live without me. No, this is Thomas Tuchel for one thing. This is a man that is prone to not exactly speaking in a calm fashion when
is this
when
not
he loses.
Tuchel times 10 in pre-season?
Well, he's only had one other pre-season before. He
Okay.
was right. It was right to be upset. I mean, it was a woeful performance against Arsenal. He's right to be concerned. I think everyone connected to the club should be concerned with the way Chelsea have been playing on pre-season. But I think there's an air of inevitability about this, in the sense that Chelsea are very undercooked. They've only played 3 pre-season games, and on top of that, he's got this huge squad, a mishmash of players he wants and players he doesn't want, or players that want to leave, and yet he's still having to give them minutes. So essentially, players have only played sort of like 1.5 games, sort of in terms of first teamers. I just thought there's a huge disparity between sort of Chelsea, the way Chelsea were playing, and Arsenal look like they're ready to go. Chelsea look a long way off, and the squad that's going to start the season is not necessarily going to be the squad on September the 1st, /2. The owners are trying to make buys here. It's not like they're sort of twiddling their thumbs and thinking, well, sign Sterling, sign Koulibaly, that's it. But inevitably, they're experiencing some teething problems, some reality checks in the sense that they've gone for Rafinha, Barcelona got him. They've gone for De Ligt, Bayern Munich have got him. It's not just a simple case of we're Chelsea, we're new owners, here's our money, and we're going to get the guys you want. So I think there's a lot of frustration with Tuchel that he hasn't got the squad he wants to start the season ready to go now. But I think there was a sort of inevitability about that, to be honest.
Do you think there's a slight tension in, I think Tuchel probably looks at this season, his second full season, third season, as he's probably desperate to try and go and win the Premier League. And the owners are in a little bit of a transition period in terms of how they're going to rebuild the squad. And you know that Man City and Liverpool, they've done their business early. They're going to be flying out the traps you would expect. And just looking at Chelsea's fixtures, I mean, they've not got nightmare fixtures at the start of the season, but they've got awkward ones, going to Everton, going to Leeds, Spurs and Liverpool in their first 8 games as well, Derby against Fulham. Even if you're getting that squad ready for the start of September, with how early the season's starting, there is actually a danger you can fall away if you're not ready.
Yeah, you're right in to highlight that. I think Tuchel is very anxious, sort of quite impatient to catch up with Klopp and Guardiola, but those guys have been at the helm for several years and been able to build the squad over time. He's only been there for 18 months. He's only signed technically 3 players. We don't count the mighty Marcus Bettinelli or Sam Niguez. And of course, Lukaku's already backfired. That was a disaster. He's gone. So he's asking a lot. Not that Tuchel wants time. He wants to be competing with those guys now. But in reality, to catch up with those 2 teams is an incredibly tough ask, because one, that they're 2 of the best teams anyway, and you're right, Adam. They've gone out and strengthened again, you could say. So, yeah, I think we're getting a picture of a guy that is great. That he's not settling for what he's done so far: Champions League, the Super Cup, and Club World Cup last season. He wants more and more, but it's going to take longer than I think that he's prepared to accept. And he's not a guy that can cope with chasing. He wants to be up there with those guys now.
Who'd you blame? Whose fault is it?
Well, you would say that this is a fault of Chelsea's transfer spending since they last won the title in 2017. Yeah, you look at how many great buys they've had in that time. There aren't that many. If you look at their attack compared to the teams they're up against, for starters, you'd say they're behind City and Liverpool, but you'd also rank their attack below Tottenham's. You'd rank their attack possibly now below Arsenal's. Now they've signed Jesus to strengthen. Man United, question mark. It's very difficult to win league titles with an attack like Chelsea's, the one that Chelsea have right now, and that's even with the addition of Raheem Sterling. Now a lot can change in the next few weeks, but right now I think the maximum I personally think that Chelsea can achieve this season is again trying to fight for that top 4 spot and winning a domestic trophy.
Do you think Spurs are more ready for this season?
Yeah.
I think they'll finish above Chelsea.
Not necessarily, because Chelsea have that sort of that know-how, but Tottenham are in great shape. Of course, they've got a manager there that has won a league title in the Premier League, and has won titles obviously pretty much everywhere he's gone. But yeah, I mean, Spurs are a serious force. They're catching Chelsea at the back end of last season, and Arsenal. I mean, that's the other problem, that Chelsea's season, it almost feels like Tuchel's been a negative mindset since April, because Chelsea's season really did nosedive in the last sort of 6 to 8 weeks. Going out the Champions League, their league form was appalling. And it's almost like he's carried that into pre-season, and he's concerned that the same problems that were there at the back end of last season are still there, which is the defence isn't as good as it was, and the attack isn't firing.
Yeah, you can read more about Tuchel's comments, of course, on The Athletic. They're very, very pointed for Chelsea fans, and very interesting, I'm sure, for the fans of Premier League rivals as well. I guess the point, Simon, a little bit is that, was this not almost inevitable, considering the changes that had to be made with the ownership and obviously the structure behind the scenes as well? There's been announcement after announcement and change after change that also needed to be made, and all this was being done at a time when City and Liverpool and others were getting their houses in order. Chelsea just couldn't do that, really.
Yeah, I mean, Chelsea have gone through a pretty unprecedented thing, haven't they? I mean, it's been the most bonkers 6 months, arguably, of my Chelsea reporting life since they won. Since they won. I mean, I think I've got the bags to prove it.
But that's quite a statement, isn't it? Considering how interesting a club Chelsea is to cover at times.
Well, yes.
Pick my word carefully there.
Yeah. It's never a dull moment. But
no,
even by their standards, the last 6 months, they go and win the Club World Cup in Abu Dhabi, and then it all kicks off with Roman Abramovich, and it's been non-stop ever since. And the takeover was completed the end of May. They then sort of get rid of Marina Granovskaya, this influential director who's been in charge of incomings, outgoings in terms of negotiations, plus player contracts. Petr Cech, who Tuchel has effectively revealed as sort of far more hands-on than perhaps many outside the club realised. Bruce Butt going is not so much of a blow or a thing to recover from in terms of the transfer situation. But you've then got these new guys coming in, and they think, we run businesses, successful businesses. We know how to do this, but it's still a tough ask to come in the back end of May and go straight into a transfer window and go, right, we're going to fly around Europe and we're going to buy him, and him. It's not as simple as that. And especially when you're going for the top players that they've been going for. It's not like they're going for sort of so-so players that are quite easy to prize out of clubs. They're going for guys that, as I said, that Barcelona and Bayern Munich want. So I think there is a big degree of inevitability about the struggles that Chelsea have faced. But it's not all doom and gloom either. I don't think Chelsea are in crisis mode yet. I still think there's a lot of reasons to be positive. But for them to catch up with City and Liverpool was going to be a tough ask, whether there was new owners there or not.
So obviously you're talking about the strikers position or forwards. There's 2 really big players who are available at the moment. And I think they'll probably continue to be available over the next few weeks. And Chelsea are in this slightly weird position where they're under a lot of pressure to do deals. Ronaldo, Neymar. Is there any world in which Chelsea become a little bit panicky and get involved with those, or not at all?
In terms of Ronaldo, they were definitely, obviously, we all know, again, it was another story that we did, not that I did, about Todd Bowley meeting George Mendes, and it was definitely discussed, and there was definitely interest there. But the impression, and very strong impression given, it was that it wasn't going to happen because it would become the Ronaldo show. And they're very, very wary of it all becoming Ronaldo show. Now, that might appeal. Obviously, I think beforehand, you sort of go, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. New owners come in. What a statement signing that is. But I think logistically, what it would mean for Chelsea in terms of their profile would go through the roof. But for the team, for the dressing room, is that the best thing to happen? I don't think so, even though he brings goals. And so I don't think that'll happen. And I think given Tuchel's challenges of working with Neymar, or certainly his challenges of working at PSG, again, for the same reason, I'd be surprised if they did something like that.